Ever since, well, I guess big blow up about living in one house, and it's really been strained since then. It honestly has. It's been strained since then. I told him point blank that was something I would never do again. And then it's like he didn't even care. I just thought, okay, well, I'm just last on his list of important people.
And it's very much unraveled plural marriage for me, and it's made me a little bit cynical.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's April 12th and we're going to get started on our recap of Sister Wives. Last night's episode was whoa. Lots happened. This family is legit falling apart, and it's all because of their history, their unresolved things, because literally this family never talks about anything. They always say that nothing is safe. I can't imagine living in a family where you can't have conversations because you say there's no such thing. There's a lot of unsafe conversations. And because they don't typically address the underlying problems, they bring a lot of baggage with them and feelings into the future, which are unresolved. There's bitterness, there's resentments, there's anger, and a lot of unwillingness to actually talk about it or address the problems. So in this week's episode, Janelle decides that she's going to confront, head on with multiple sister wives. The family battles about what they're going to do as a family to manage the pandemic, and if they are going to abide by the guidelines or if they are going to just go, screw it, we're all going to hang out. There's also discussion about whether or not Christine wants to leave the family. Also, Kody wanting to leave the family, and then throw a monkey wrench in all of that. As the family is completely falling apart, Robyn wants to have a kid. So buckle up, grab some coffee or tea or juice or wine, whatever you got. Let's get started on the Sister Wives. So last night's episode, I believe it's episode 8 or 9 of this season, 9, I believe, the Sister Wives actually started out and had a conversation about how they were going to manage the pandemic. They did this via a Zoom call, and during the Zoom call, they had a conversation about, what are they going to do? Are they all going to follow the guidelines by the doctors? Do they actually believe it to be a huge issue? Janelle seems to be the most obstinate, stubborn in a way about not wanting to follow protocols, refusing to quarantine, and saying she absolutely 1,000,000,000% cannot continue to live like this because she doesn't want to be so alone. And she literally tells Kody that if her kids could pick between seeing Christine's kids and Christine or over Kody, they would pick Christine and her kids over Kody.
My kids are to the point where they're like, we would choose hanging out at Christine's house over you coming, Kody. Sorry, that's where they're at.
Now, Christine found this very flattering, but she also said that while she wants to see the kids, she doesn't want Kody to, as a result, not to see his kids. So she loves seeing Janelle's kids because she literally raised them. And she had to say that, I don't know if I agree with that, but she would want to see them. It's like a conundrum. And then on the very opposite end, you have Robyn, who is 1,000,000,000% going to do whatever Kody wants because she doesn't want to fight with him. She also is being a lot more conservative and wants to keep the family safe and trusts her doctors. So Janelle claims that she trusts the doctors, but she says that the doctors, it's their perception of what you should do.
I think our family doctor is giving her perspective, and we're taking it like gospel truth.
She insists that she follows the CDC, but she also said she's not going to stop living her life. Now, Kody says that Janelle's being lazy and that she's not taking the steps to actually keep her children quarantined, and that by taking the stance that she's taking, she's basically just doing it so that Kody can't come down on her kids.
I think Janelle is full of and this is why she's full of because the kids aren't seeing each other all the time anyway.
Because she doesn't want to, she'll take the position of, I don't really believe it's that big of a deal, so that he can't criticize the kids and he can only say that it's her problem. Now, Christine seems to be more on the same side as Janelle, but also Christine doesn't seem to be that willing to risk it as Janelle is. In fact, Janelle thinks that Christine and her are on the same side, but I actually disagree. I feel like Christine's more in the middle, Robyn being on the very end, wanting to be very safe because of her own histories, along with Solomon's history with asthma and RSV. She doesn't want to risk anything. Kody obviously doesn't want to risk anything and wants to reduce exposure. And can I just say, it's actually good to see someone in the fundy world taking this matter seriously. Mary says literally next to nothing. And Mary says that she wished that everyone would kind of talk about it, but instead Kody's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm only going to go to the houses. I don't think you guys should see each other. I can't stop you if you see each other, but if you do see each other, you're not going to see me. So the ultimatum to them is basically, if you guys get together, I'm not coming over. All right, next up, they have a car stuck on Coyote Pass. So apparently they still haven't built anything, and Kody explains that they just don't have the cash. They don't have the money, they don't have anything to buy or do anything down in Coyote Pass. So right now, it's just a place where they like to go get away, perhaps have some picnics, play out in the mud, do whatever their thing is. So Gwendolyn and her sisters apparently went down to Coyote Pass, and while they were there, apparently went off-road and got stuck in some mud. And Kody had to go and unstick them, or take them out, or pull them out. And Kody lamented that he wished he had a tractor. And apparently Christine's neighbor has a tractor, but they didn't want to bother them. They didn't want him to think that it was the husband's fault. And then Christine was like, well, I wouldn't tell them that it's your fault. And there's this like thing going back and forth about this. Anyways, the thing is so far stuck in the mud, they have to get shovels to dig out the wheels. Then the car is dead, so they have to restart the battery. And then after all the digging and everything, they're finally able to pull out the car. It is quite the conundrum. And then after it's all said and done, Kody gets a kiss from Christine. They move on. Everyone's happy. End scene.
I'm sorry. Literally, the frame of the car is floating on the ground and the tires are spinning freely.
Okay, give it a little bit of gas. Oh, yeah, baby.
And maybe a four-wheeler. All right, there's my kiss.
They agreed when they all met via Zoom conference that if they wanted to get together, they could probably do get-togethers as a family if they stayed outside and were socially distanced. If they were to do anything together, they wouldn't be like in each other's homes. They would stay far away from each other, but still be able to interact private, like in face-to-face. So Janelle invites Robyn over and wants to talk with Robyn about what their plans are moving forward as a family.
My conversations they probably come off as aggressive. I need to be more willing to hear what everybody has to say.
Janelle in a way actually admitted she's a bulldozer. So she effectively, when she's sitting down with Robyn, and this is actually unique because you rarely see Janelle and Robyn have any one-on-ones, and I've often wondered if Janelle and Robyn even have much of a relationship. And it's pretty evident with how awkward their interactions are. It's likely that they have slim to no relationship. Anyway, Janelle basically talks about how she's such a bulldozer. She calls it exuberance, but I would liken it to say that when she wants something, she puts blinders on and that's the only thing she sees. And she often was very much about the one house idea. And now when it comes to the COVID stuff, she wants, her certain way. But she's actually talking about the breakdown of the family. So she's concerned that if things stay the way that they are, the family is going to break down because they're all living separately. She says she's too aggressive and she only is like, when she talks to people, says what she wants while often not allowing herself to listen to the needs of other people.
And it's hard because there's a lot of opinions. I think it's a culture in plural families too.
She admits that she needs to be more willing to what other people have to say. This seems to be a pattern with Janelle. While Janelle is often the one that gets into the least arguments with Kody, this year, Janelle and Kody have been going at it quite a bit, and it all stems from how she's handling COVID. But it all seems to be that she's so stubborn about what she wants, and she doesn't really seem to care about the needs of the family. Now, Janelle mentions that Robyn is really quiet and doesn't typically speak up. And Robyn explains that when she was in her previous marriage, there was so much fighting that once she married Kody, she was going to be more practical, she was going to be more conservative and take her time to be more thorough in the decisions that she made so that she didn't go off of emotions.
I was married before, and In that marriage there was a lot of fighting and there was a lot of pain. That I was like, if I ever marry again, I'm just gonna be more cautious and more careful.
And I actually, in a way, respect Robyn for taking this position. It seems to be that she's very observant of what happens around her, which allows her to make a more formed opinion, not just based on emotion, but rather on the total of the situation.
I'm relieved that Janelle's saying, hey, let's, maybe what we're doing isn't working.
Robyn admits she doesn't talk very much, and Janelle admits that she basically steamrolls Robyn. Robyn is sort of like, it seems like in a way, trying to not get into fights with Kody. And she actually said that she and Kody rarely ever fight. She said they've had about 5 total fights in their entire marriage that were big. And she says that is a product of the fact that she is very deliberate and conservative about her feelings and more cautious. Cautious was her word. She wants to be cautious in her communication so that she does not hurt other people's feelings. So nothing really gets resolved between Robyn and Janelle. The only thing that does resolve is that they all agree that right now the family is very fractured. Everyone is living very different lives, and they're living like monogamists who share a husband, and they're not actually living like a family. And that if this continues, the family will not go into the future. The longer this goes along, the more comfortable they're gonna get not spending any time together, and the family will eventually break up. And I think that's the direction things are going right now. Next, we go to Kody and Christine, who are actually on their way to a birthday date for Christine. So if you remember, a couple weeks ago, it was Christine's birthday, but Kody said that he was going to spend that time with Hunter because he was graduating from the Air Force Academy. So he went over to Janelle's house to watch the graduation virtually. And Christine agreed that she and Kody would do something afterwards because she didn't want him to miss that very special moment for Hunter, which is a very nice sacrifice. So for their time together, they don't go on to a drive and they go watch the sunset in Sedona, Arizona, which is absolutely beautiful, by the way. Kody says that he and Christine love to go on to adventures with each other, and Christine said she was greatly looking forward to it.
Christine and I have a lot of fun adventuring together, and we have a lot of fun when we don't have a plan.
Do you think we're going too far with our family?
What do you mean?
I think that I don't think we should be separated.
During their car ride, they talk about how Christine feels like maybe the family is going too far, maybe they're doing too much separation, and she doesn't want to be separated from her family. Kody says that, to be safe, he would rather them be separate.
What I feel like my family is constantly doing is using emotion against science. The virus doesn't care about our emotion.
Kody says the virus doesn't care about our emotion, and he would rather be conservative to ensure everyone's safety. And I actually agree with Kody on this. This is one season where I hate to say it, but I actually agree a lot with a lot of his positions on the virus. And I have to say again, it's really, really refreshing to see someone in the fundamentalist world take this seriously, because so frequently we're seeing the exact opposite. Looking at you, Duggars. Okay, so as they're driving to Sedona, then there is sort of some breakouts where there's discussions behind in their interviews, and in a confessional, it's this place where Christine discusses that she and Kody's marriage is completely fractured and strained. She said that once she shot down the one house idea, it effectively broke down their marriage, and their marriage has never recovered since.
I guess big blow up about living in one house, and it's really been strained since then. It honestly has. It's been strained since then.
So she said that after everything came together and she bounced it down, then she became the lowest priority on his list. And she says that once that happened, it put this massive strain, and he seemed to, in a way, check out.
And then it's like he didn't even care. I just thought, okay, well, I'm just last on his list of important people.
She says in the big picture of the family, she actually doesn't see how important she is. And then Kody starts talking about how once Christine sort of unloaded her feelings about living in one house and her reservations and discontentment in plural marriage, it sort of opened up a wound in him, making him realize, you know what, I'm not happy in plural marriage either, and maybe none of us are happy in plural marriage, and maybe this isn't what we want for our future.
And it's very much unraveled plural marriage for me, and it's made me a little bit cynical.
And he said that when he started to look at it from her perspective, it has created this tidal wave of him feeling like maybe plural marriage isn't the right path for the future for the family, and that she clearly isn't happy. He flat out says, this is not a struggle that Christine enjoys, and it's not a struggle I enjoy, but then he goes back to the endurance part of, in polygamy, the goal is to endure through the struggles so that you can get to heaven. But he's saying, like, even if I get through the endurance of this and then I get to heaven, I'm still going to be miserable. And then in the middle of all of this, which I find completely weird and totally irrational by Robyn, she sits down and talks to him about how she wants to have children. So after Christine and Kody go on their date, which doesn't resolve anything, it doesn't bring them closer together, although it is nice to see them actually interacting positively, Robyn then sits him down and is like, do you want to have more kids? You're kind of 1 minute talking about how you want kids, the next minute how you don't want kids. And Kody then talks about how, he's always loved having kids. He's got children from 26 to like 4 years old. And Robyn says, I have this, she goes into this weird spiritual thing where she believes that pre-birth, so her life, her life, she met the spirits of all of the children that she was supposed to raise. And she says that the spirits of these children talk to her while she's alive here, and she doesn't want to leave any of those spirits out there on their own. And so she needs to go get all of her babies. And she said there's a little boy with dark hair that still needs her. Now, Kody admits that it's weird because he has blonde hair, so the likelihood that he'll have a child with dark hair, because the blonde hair runs strong in his family, is very slim, and he's probably pretty accurate. Although the children that he has with blondes are the ones that have the blonde hair. Robyn's dark hair is dominant over his blonde hair, so they could actually have a dark-haired boy. It would be a possibility. Anyways, that makes him believe that maybe adoption is the next option, and they don't commit to anything. Initially, he says, I just want you to be good with us moving forward without adding any more children. But then once she's threw in the, I see a little boy with dark hair that still needs us, Kody was then like, maybe we should adopt. Although I don't know how he went from that to adoption.
I felt like the decision's made, and then she blows me out of the water with a visual of a dark-haired boy. My blonde hair really comes out in the kids, so I doubt that we'd have a dark-haired boy. Maybe we're supposed to adopt. I have no idea.
Thoughts on anyone on how that happened? Either way, I think it's super weird for Robyn to only be thinking about how she wants more kids in the middle of all of this. And she said that she had to have this conversation with him because Kody's older and a lot of his other wives are done. Okay, so nothing gets resolved. They might adopt the kid with the dark hair.
If you don't feel done, maybe we need to think about this some more. If I don't know that I'm done, maybe we need to make sure.
Finally, we wrap up this episode with Christine and Janelle talking about their experiences about what's going on with the family. And Janelle sort of starts this conversation off very similar to how she started it off with Robyn, talking about how she's so exuberant and pushy and bullheaded and sometimes doesn't think about other people's perspectives. And she even brings up the idea of the one house idea, and she says to Christine, I forgive you for that. Like Christine ruined it. Like, that's the kind of entitlement I got from Janelle there.
Janelle's very stubborn. Like she has blinders on, and that's what she's aiming for, and that's what she's going for. She does do that.
The one house conversation, you and I were definitely very loud on opposite ends.
Yeah.
And I really have no hard feelings about everything. And I want to just make sure that I want to clear the air. I'm good.
But Christine then unloads in a way on Janelle and tells her point blank that she was not going to go back to one house because when she lived with Janelle, Janelle left her with all of the children, making her abandon her own kids or not being able to be a mom to her own kids because Janelle wanted to work and Janelle and Kody get what they want.
I'm good with you now, but when we were in the one house, there's a few reasons why I don't want to. I felt like everybody, like what you and Kody wanted me to do, was more important than what I wanted to do.
So it seems like Christine often feels that they use her as the dumping ground for kids, for responsibilities. And if you remember, she was the one that was doing the homeschooling and the caregiving of the children while they were young. And she effectively was the one who raised Janelle's kids when they were young, which is why she remains so close to like the older kids that Janelle has, like Maddie. She's very, very close to Maddie. But she flat out says, I'm not going there, and I don't want to have this talk with you because it's not safe. And Janelle says she wants to rip the Band-Aid off and just go there, let the fallout happen. And I feel like I don't think Christine and Janelle have a very good relationship. I think this is a long, deep-seated wound, and even Janelle recognizes that, and that until they actually address it, it's going to be a factor. They also talk about how neither one of this signed up for this type of being in this situation where everyone's living so separate, and that if they stay in this place, the family will just completely break up. So Christine basically tells Janelle, like, I don't know that I matter that much in this family, because when I do share something, I get crapped on. And then when we did live in one house, my opinion didn't matter. I did everything for you guys, and I'm not going to allow myself to do that again. And I still don't feel like I matter in this relationship because I do everything for everyone else, but I don't feel like I have an equal say.
Like nauseous, to the point of being nauseous. It's hard to get together and feel like I still matter and I'm still important. Because I think when it comes down to it, I don't matter that much. Not really.
They also talk about living separately and how easy it is to live separately, but it's also not what they signed up for. They all agree at the end of the conversation that they don't want to split up as a family, but they also don't come to a resolution about how they're going to get there or improve everything. Christine does mention that she doesn't want to continue living in Arizona and does believe they need to move to Utah because she doesn't want to retire in a place where there's no other polygamists, no other support, and she's only with her family. She wants to be around members of her church and within the polygamous community and back with family. So it seems as though things are getting really hectic here, and next week we're going to have more separation between Christine and Kody. There's also going to be some fallout with the kids and Kody, and we'll just see how this keeps going. But it seems like Christine is getting more and more disillusioned, and it feels like this family might actually fall apart. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.